Book 2. Introduction. It is very difficult for us to find organization of different kinds in explanation because of your desire at the present time to break everything down into the minutest part, including your nanoseconds. It is very difficult for us who live in an existence of fluidity, where the different aspects of your physicality are perceived as a whole instead of in separate parts. The difficulty of putting this book together was to separate different aspects of physical existence. It was necessary for John to try and ask the right questions so that we could understand what he was trying to convey to us, so that we could give you a clearer understanding of your different aspects of your physicality. It would be much like someone that was not from your world asking you to explain the different elements that comprise the air you breathe. You know it only as the air you breathe. You would have to try and understand what kind of description would be clearest to define those elements that comprise what you only know of as air. In this book, we will try to explain to you, in the simplest of terms, that which we call your physicality. We are going to explore the entrance of the physical construct into what you call your physical reality. There are many components that make up your physical reality. These creations are of your individual making. This is your reality. It is of your design, your coloring, your intent, your purposes. And that is all based on your individual understanding. It is like the 10-year-old child that is called handicapped and treated as a baby, who comes to the realization that it no longer wants to be a baby, but wants to be the best it can possibly be under its present circumstances. The child longs for help just as you long for help. Your longing comes from being unable to reach your fullest potential. You can't find information to help you in your understanding of you in the body and the bodily understanding of your place in the global play you are taking part in. We will try and explain many of these things, in the simplest of terms, for your understanding and enjoyment. We are Datre. Chapter 1. Did the physical universe have a beginning? Many have asked, well, Datre, what do you do in the universe? And we cannot explain what we do out in the universe because you don't have any words that we can use to explain it. There are those of us out there in the universe that, the term that best fits would be a core self. We work in multiplicities. We are birthed to perform certain functions. We work with raw, undifferentiated energy and the rearrangement of that energy in different ways. That which is a core self is all-encompassing. They also gather information from different sources. All of you come from core selves that experience different forms of physicality. The core selves that you come from are experiencing physicalities within this particle universe, including that which you call this particular planet. There is more than one core self. A core self is a collector of all of this information that is taking place through the physical constructs within the particle universe. It is also gathering all the information taking place through your plants, your animals, etc. Everything that you have in your worlds of planetary existence, except beliefs and emotions, are being gathered and experienced by the core selves. In the beginning, some of those in Datre, as they began to work with energy in the big universe, found that some energies would stick together. They were fascinated by this process and continued to find more and more pieces that would stick together. These stuck-together energies are what we'll call particles. This was something new. As they continued to make these particles, what could be done with them? This became such a fascination that they continued to make more and more of these particles until the big universe was filled with them. These particles needed to be contained. There are also those in Datre who are specialists in creating universes, and they were able to build a universe around these particles. These particles were now in their own separate new particle universe. When a new universe comes into being, that new universe automatically begins to arrange and organize itself in a manner that supports its intended purpose. This new particle universe expanded its awareness in a whole new direction. Expanded awareness causes action, action causes expanded awareness. At that point, a number of things happened at the same time. This new particle universe birthed a whole new species of beings into the universal family called creators. There was also a new something we call consciousness, which was what this new universe took as its type of awareness. You see, this new particle universe was what we would call an experiment in limitedness. We, those of us in Datre, have never experienced such a thing as being limited in any way. None of the known universes have ever explored this thing we call limitation. We are all unlimited in our expression and what we do in the universe. For us, everything we do happens instantly. We are not able to slow things down so that we can experience the process of something happening. It just happens instantly. This new particle universe is the first experiment ever into this thing we call limitedness. This limitedness allows everything to be experienced slowly enough so that it can be experienced in all of its detail of becoming what it is to be. Everything, in all of the known universes, has what is called awareness, including the intelligence of the universes themselves. It is how we know ourselves as ourselves. This new particle universe form of awareness was something different that had never been known before, called consciousness. Consciousness is what might be called awareized energy. This awareized energy, consciousness, is what this new particle universe uses to experience itself as itself. This consciousness allows the particle universe to experience each and every smallest particle within itself fully. These new creator core selves have a very unique function that those in the big or raw universe do not have. Their uniqueness is that they have the ability to function, as we have said, in an atmosphere of limitation. Those in Datre that function in the big, raw universe are intrigued with this new ability. These creator core selves function in this sea of consciousness that is the awareness of this particle universe itself. They function from a point of intellect and perception, but they use awareness, just like all of those in the universal family. They are not the consciousness that they function in. It is similar to a person going swimming. They are in the water and surrounded by water, but are not a part of the water. As we have said, this new thing called consciousness was in every minute particle in this new particle universe. One of the characteristics of consciousness is to put particles together as a sort of something that the particle universe itself is making for its own expression and enjoyment. This stuff that results has no rhyme or reason to it, just globs of stuff here and there. This was more the result of the particle universe's consciousness playing with its new toys. The smallest part of consciousness contains the whole of consciousness, so it can replicate itself repeatedly. That characteristic is what you call a hologram. These new creator core selves function from the vantage point of concepts. They built with organization in mind, yet no less playful and exuberant than consciousness. Soon they were able to make shapes which developed into what you could call things, as opposed to just stuff. Their play was becoming more exciting. Since consciousness was everywhere and in every smallest part of everything, all of these projects being developed by the creators was also holographic. After a while, there were large numbers of holographic projects being developed by different groups of creators. So many, in fact, that they began to overlap and interfere with one another. Something had to be done. It was decided to place each group of creators' projects within its own containment. In these containments they were able to develop more and more different shapes. These containments were able to expand in any way, shape or form desired. Like large soap bubbles, the soap makes its own outside parameter just like the universal bubble makes its own outside parameter. All of these holograms, to this point, were still just energy constructs. The possibility of solid appearing objects hadn't even come into their spectrum of awareness. As play continued, specific things began to appear in these containments. The fascination of joining particles became more and more organized. As the process grew, groups of like objects became more and more defined. Eventually, these containments were developing their own different new somethings into what was eventually referred to as physicality. The idea of being able to do something with these particle things became more interesting. This stimulated a whole new excitement. Other groups of creators built holographic planets, suns, etc. Some planets had multiple suns. Some planets create their own energy patterns without benefit of light. We repeat once again, this was still all only holographic. As you can see, there is no such thing as a physical universe per se. Most of what you see in your night sky is the unorganized stuff or artwork of the particle universe's consciousness. This stuff is what you call nebula, galaxies, etc. This is also why your scientific instruments indicate that the universe is still expanding. The particle universe's consciousness continues to make stuff as an expression of its vibrant, playful exuberance. As an example, the expansion of a universe is a result of that universe's expanded self-awareness. So for a universe to not be expanding would mean that that universe had stopped in its exploration of itself. With everything in the process of expanded awareness, this particle universe's awareness expands also. Now, I ask you a question: how big is big? In one of the more recent Datre transcripts in answer to a question concerning one of your planets, we commented, "How do you know it's not just 10 miles away?" Some of you wrote that you did not understand that statement. As we have also said many times, there is no such thing as time or space. Well, if there is no such thing as time or space, that means that there is no such thing as distance either. These are just psychological frameworks that you use to assist you in your communications with one another. That is also why you can go on a trip of a certain distance that should take a certain amount of time, and that trip ends up feeling like it was much shorter or much longer. It is the same with the rooms in your home. By rearranging the room in a different manner, it can seem to be much bigger or much smaller, depending on the arrangement. You see, these things are psychologically longer or shorter, bigger or smaller, depending upon your individual psychological framework at the time. During all this process, some of us in Datre have constantly watched you creators in your continuing development with fascination. As you can see, some of those in Datre are creator core selves. Now, this has been a very simple explanation of some very difficult things to explain. We wanted to try and give some idea of how this new particle universe works and how you creators work in this new universe.